This entire campaign has been really shrouded in mystery, right? They're trying to keep us in the dark. Well, I'm pulling us out, and I'm taking us into the light. So let's talk about the facts. Let's look at what Kamala Harris truly believes in. Starting with the border. Her handling, ladies and gentlemen, of the border was a complete and utter disaster. Complete disaster. People are pouring into this country, into communities in California and Texas and Florida. Many of whom aren't good people. Many of whom aren't just poor innocent children like the media tries to portray. Many of whom are drug traffickers, sex traffickers, terrorists. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris stopped the construction of the border wall immediately upon taking office. They ended Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, and they started releasing illegals into U.S. communities. Incentivizing more to come, by the way. With all these, generous benefits and programs and so on and so forth. California doesn't exactly help with that moron over there, Gavin Newsom. All this free stuff for illegals. We'll get to that later on in the show. But Kamala Harris's handling of the border has been a complete disaster. And yes, by the way, she was in charge. This is her mess. She was the border czar. We have a compilation to play, folks. This is something that was put together by the Media Research Center. Of the media back in 2020, 2021, saying that, yeah, Kamala Harris is the border czar. Now, of course, now they're all backtracking, backpedaling, saying, no, she was never the border czar. Trying to gaslight us like that was never a thing. But it clearly was. Everyone knew it. Listen.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. She was the border czar.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
But now she's not the border czar, right? Got it. So she was before, but now she was never the border czar. Makes sense. Got it. This is her mess, her disaster, her lack of leadership. That's a fact. That's a fact. That's in the records books. Number 2. In 2019, Kamala Harris pushed for taking police out of schools. Did you know this? She's on the record of supporting this disastrous idea. Taking cops out of schools. She was speaking again in 2019 at the Presidential Justice Forum at Benedict College. Listen to this.
Being incarcerated for a couple of days is traumatic, much less the weeks, months, and years that we're seeing that happen. And so part of my plan is also a reduction.
All right, let me stop. I'll start the clip over, but let me just say, he's talking about being incarcerated is traumatic. Well, you know what? Some people deserve to be incarcerated. Can I say that? Is that politically incorrect? I just said it anyway. Some people deserve to be incarcerated. Some people deserve to be in prison for life. Some people deserve the death penalty. What do you think of that? Anyway, sorry, I just had to get my 2 cents in there because I couldn't let her just go unchecked with that BS. Let me start the clip over again. Listen.
Being incarcerated for a couple of days is traumatic, much less the weeks, months, and years that we're seeing that happen. And so part of my plan is also a reduction of that. And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools.
Are schools militarized right now? What is she talking about? What is she talking about? I mean, does she understand what our schools are like? It's not like, folks, it's not like we have, soldiers roaming the hallways with machine guns It's not like we have people stationed around every corner like we're in Iraq. It's not what it's like. Demilitarizing our schools? What the hell does that mean? This is Kamala Harris in 2019. Keep listening.
And taking police officers out of schools.
Oh, that's genius.
We need to deal with the reality and speak the truth about the inequities around school discipline.
Yeah, the inequities, right? Take police out of schools. Folks, who thinks this is a good idea? What argument could you possibly have for taking police officers out of schools? You know, the liberals, ladies and gentlemen, particularly when they're talking about the issue of gun control, the Second Amendment, they often say, you know, we need to act for the children. We need to do whatever it takes to keep our children safe. The children. Gee, that'll keep our children safe, right, Kamala? Taking cops out of schools? What the hell is this? What the hell is this? Who thinks that would be a good idea? Not me. In many cases, I think we need more cops in schools. I do. To stop these whack jobs from, I don't know, you name it, abusing their teachers, getting into fights, God forbid, taking a gun into school. We need more cops in schools in many situations. Not all. I understand there's exceptions. Every school is different. But the overall premise is that if we have more cops, we have more law and order. We have more control. We have more... We create a safer environment for our kids. That's a no-brainer. That's why we have the cops, after all. But I know you, Kamala Harris, you don't exactly believe in the cops. You believe in defunding the police, so maybe that argument would go right over your head. But there's Kamala Harris in 2019. Fact number 3. Kamala Harris is on the record for supporting EV mandates. She has co-sponsored the Zero Emission Vehicle Act of 2019, which would require that by 2030, 50% of sales for new passenger vehicles are electric vehicles. And it would ramp up 5% each year until eventually getting to 100% by 2040. Kamala Harris co-sponsored this act. And now, of course, she says, you know, being the flip-flopper that she is, she says that no, she doesn't support EV mandates. She's never supported EV mandates. Ladies and gentlemen, Google this. Open a new tab and search this act. It's right there in plain English. In plain English. The Zero Emission Vehicles Act of 2019. You can read all about it, and then at the very bottom, it says the Zero Emission Vehicles Act is co-sponsored by Senators Kamala Harris, and then it lists others. Bernie Sanders is on it, and a few others. But Kamala Harris supported this. She absolutely did. More government, more regulation. More intervention in the economy. Telling you which cars you can buy. Which are approved, which aren't approved. Rather than letting the free market decide. Rather than letting the people decide based on things like supply and demand, what interests you, what doesn't interest you, what works for you and your family. No. The government, Kamala Harris, supports mandates. Let's transition to electric vehicles. I could go on and on about this, why this is a horrible idea. It's a non-starter. It's ridiculous. Doesn't even make any sense. It sounds great on paper, might be a great talking point, but it doesn't even make any sense. So she supports that. Yes, she does. I don't care if she lies about it now, she supports that. And God forbid if she gets into the White House, she's going to act on it. We have to take her at her word, folks. Number four. She wants to ban fracking. Now today, she says she doesn't. Today, she says she never supported banning fracking. We have audio from 2020, a presidential town hall, where she said straight up, yes, I support fracking. Listen.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
She didn't even hesitate, did she? She didn't even hesitate. She supports banning fracking because she's a liberal. And she has to govern, if, God forbid, she gets in the White House, based on the desires of her constituents and special interests and so on and so forth. These special interest groups who are going to be pressuring her to ban fracking. She'll do it, folks. She will do it. This is the real Kamala Harris. We have one more. She supports a mandatory buyback program on firearms. Yes, she does. We have audio from this, October 2019, at a gun safety forum. Listen.
What would you do about the millions of, specifically, assault weapons that are already in circulation? What do you do about those?
Well, there are approximately 5 million, to your point, Craig. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
We have to have a buyback program. Yeah, it's, the only sensible thing to do. It's the only sensible thing to do. Do nothing about the illegal aliens flooding into the country, trafficking guns. No, do nothing about that. But the law-abiding citizens who own firearms, doesn't matter if it's a pistol or a semi-automatic rifle, doesn't matter. Those are the people that we have to go and get. Those are the people that we have to punish, says Kamala Harris. Keep listening.
To be smart, we got to do it the right way.
We have to be smart.
But there are 5 million at least, some estimate as many as 10 million. And we're going to have smart public policy that's about taking those off the streets. But
no, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything. What the hell is this? Listen how she talks. Well, we're going to have to. There's no other choice. We can't, debate the Constitution. Consider the language in the Second Amendment, considering the fact that there, are law-abiding citizens out there by the millions who own firearms for legal purposes. We can't debate that. No, we need, Kamala Harris says, some kind of a buyback program. We just got to do something. So this is Kamala Harris. I'm trying to introduce you to the real Kamala Harris. She's trying to play the moderate Democrat card. She's flip-flopping on almost every issue. Saying she never said things when she did say things. Saying she never supported things when she did support these things. Her record speaks for itself.